Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Sans Goon and Sans Ironhead. I am your usual fill-in host, Chris Buchanani, joined by our favorite ringer, Mike the Mailman,
Thank you,
legendary Penn State campus icon, joining us for the second show in a row, Mike.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you and doing stuff with you. Our brackets, I'm going to fix our camera here a little bit. Our brackets are not in terrible shape so far, other than my Rutgers pick, which was a total disaster. But Michigan came from behind, proving once again my point that those who are least deserving are most prosperous, often in sports. So Michigan's moving on.
And you also said that they were put in because everyone could hate, not root for them. In other words, you said that they were put into the tournament because maybe they shouldn't have been in, but they're the team you like to hate.
Absolutely. This is great for ratings. Every round deeper into the tournament that Juwan Howard goes, the more CBS rings the cash register.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because people are going to tune in just to root against them, especially because you should have seen on social media, everybody was so excited during the first half. Michigan gets their comeuppance, karma, because they were getting killed. Yeah. They were getting smoked by Colorado State. Yeah. And then they came back in the second half and just ran them out of the building.
Wow.
So that's perfect. Now people are going to hate them even more. Yeah. And Michigan is just like generally a hateable athletics program. So, it's perfect. It's perfect. You like to have a villain to root against. We are here at State College's Quaker Steak and Lube, as we are every Tuesday and Thursday. An excellent spot to come have a few beers, enjoy some wings, watch some college basketball or some college wrestling. And our early return's not great for the Nittany Lions, Mike the Mailman, with especially at 125, the cursed weight class for Penn State. Drew Hildebrandt gets bounced early, as he did at Big Ten's. Just a total implosion there for the Nittany Lions once again.
I don't know. It's off to a slow start, but it's not how you begin the tournament. It's how you end the tournament. So we're hoping for that. I'm hoping to put a strong showing in. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, well, yeah, you don't want to be talking about a comeback narrative before the end of the first session of the first day.
Not Nationals. Definitely not Nationals. Too many teams. You're right.
Yeah.
You do not want
Here we are. Hildebrandt, Berge. Both those guys lose early and now have got to make up some ground in wrestlebacks just to help the team points standings. But it's just still early on, as you noted, and it's still very early on in the NCAA tournament. I just want to talk about a couple of other stories in and around the world of sports, but I actually want to go totally off topic, not sports related at all. I just got to get this off my chest.
Please.
Did you see this story from yesterday? I think it was that the Senate passed by unanimous consent, making daylight saving time permanent.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, Mike?
It has to go to the House.
It does, yes, and then it needs to go to the president's desk.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't care either way. It doesn't matter.
So I totally get why on the surface it sounds appealing. Yeah. If I had to pick one, I would probably actually take standard time all the time versus daylight savings time.
Because they didn't do it once before, because wasn't it too dark when children got on the bus?
Yes. So I didn't know this. This is what I wanted to talk about, because I think most people saw this and like, oh, great, finally. That was even kind of my reaction. And then I started reading and listening to some commentary about this, and this is why it's important to learn your history. We already did this in 1974, and it was an unmitigated disaster.
Oh, okay.
So, again, people get angry at daylight savings time, especially in March. They don't like springing forward. I get it. Yeah. My sleep schedule has been totally boned for 3 days as a result of this. But 1974, but everyone's complaining, just like they have been recently, and Congress says, okay, all right, let's get it figured out. We're going to pass a law that says we're going to have a 2-year experiment.
Oh, good.
Where we just go to daylight savings time all the time for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Do you want to know how long that 2-year experiment lasted?
No. How long does it last?
Take a guess.
8 years.
9 months.
9 months.
So consider how hard it is to get Congress to do anything other than authorize the defense budget.
Oh, yeah.
We could spend years and years and years haggling over the most picayune details of like critically important pieces of legislation. Imagine the forces necessary to get Congress to pass a law, number one, and then to repeal the law in the same year.
Wow.
The repeal vote in the House was like 438 to 17 because it was pitch black dark until after like 9 o'clock, and people were pissed. They hated it.
But, I think the state of Indiana and Arizona, I think they never changed. I think they're still – I don't think they've ever changed. I don't know how they got away with it, but they – I don't know what happened there, but they never did.
Maybe they'll – it is possible they could meet up in the finals. Maybe that'll be the finals of the NCAA basketball tournament, and everybody will be able to watch the entire thing in daylight. So anyway, that's my soapbox, everyone, here on the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Call your representatives. Keller or Thompson, probably for a lot of our local audience, and let them know, don't vote for the daylight savings time bill. You're just going to end up voting against it again in the near future.
Yeah.
Okay. So shifting from that to another critically important sports topic I'm just curious about. So I'm sitting here, we're here at Quaker Steak and Lube. Television's all over the place, college basketball games on every screen that's not showing college wrestling. And I am noticing a trend this year, Mike. I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yes, what's that?
Have you noticed the number of teams that have gone to the script cursive font of the team name on their jerseys?
Yeah, that's I thought the first time I saw it, that's pretty cool. And all of a sudden, I saw it again and again. Plus, they have it in their team colors, which is good.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I do like that. I do like they're sticking with the team colors.
Who does that? Is that a NCAA thing or is that a sponsor thing?
Well, so it was, I guess, mildly popular back in the 70s and 80s. You remember the old Chicago Bulls jerseys?
Oh, yeah.
Right when Jordan got there, they had the script cursive across the front that said Chicago. And then it kind of went out of style. And it's very recently come back into vogue. And I'll be honest. I thought when I first saw it, it looked kind of cool.
Yeah.
Ohio State has one that, despite me not wanting to heap praise on Ohio State, says Buckeyes. And it looks in the cursive script. It looks clean. It looks cool. Yeah. But now I'm sitting here watching the Iowa-Richmond game, and both teams have it. I don't know. It just feels to me like now it's starting to get a little bit out of hand.
And the guys' shorts they used to be real short, then used to be real long. Now I think they're coming back to normal just about.
Well, they've split the difference.
Yeah.
Do you approve?
Yeah.
Did you used to wear those John Stockton style gym shorts when you played tennis back in the day?
Yeah, I did. But now I'm not the best tennis player now, but I'm the best tennis player. That's for sure.
Okay.
I really stepped that part of the game up.
No more John Stockton style, though. I hope.
You're right.
Okay.
Now, do you want to shed some light on the new announcement about our athletic director?
We're going to get there.
Okay.
Okay. For sure. But before we do,
yes,
I do just want to ask, Penn State goes in that direction. Would you like that or not?
No.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I'm not sure it would work for us.
I don't. No. Script is not. No, I wouldn't. No. I'm with you on that.
The worst trend in college basketball jerseys was 2000, 2001, where they went to the squared off shoulders and they just put the team logo on the front of the jersey.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There's no team name or anything. It looked very cheesy to me.
Yeah.
It looked like if you were, you're watching one of those 90s movies that was set in the future, like Demolition Man, which I just watched last night on Hulu. Did you ever see that? Demolition Man?
No.
Sly Stallone and Wesley Snipes?
I couldn't wait to miss
Sandra Bullock?
I'm sure it's good.
No, Mike, it's hilarious. It's great. You should see it.
Hilarious?
You should see it.
Oh,
yeah. It's like an action comedy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good. Sci-fi action comedy, Demolition Man. Highly recommend it. Anyway, those uniforms looked like the kind of costume they would have for what they imagined uniforms would look like in the future. So terrible. Script much better than that. All right. Okay. Clearly, we're improvising here in the absence of Goon and Ironhead. But go ahead.
Yeah, like we said on Tuesday, there's this is a good sports week. I mean, we got obviously the basketball tournament, the wrestling tournament, and of course there's some hockey and some NBA. But it's just it's a fun time to be able to have all these TVs in front of you here at Quaker State. It's really
maybe the best weekend in sports.
I think you might be right
for Penn State fans. Oh, yeah. Right, if you're into wrestling and you love college basketball, it doesn't get much better.
Plus the final Frozen Four is here for
women's Frozen Four. Yeah. hopefully Penn State will have a program that can one day, aspire to play in that. But in terms of raising the profile of State College as a place to come and hold those kind of events, and maybe, who knows, lay the foundation for a men's Frozen Four down the line. It's just a big step forward.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be really cool.
So the big news in Penn State world, which is what I think we're going to spend some time talking about today, is, as you mentioned, Sandy Barbour, I call it the athletic director.
Yeah, she's not that. She's the vice president.
No, yes.
Whatever.
Yeah, they needed to make the title sound more pompous. And so the vice president for intercollegiate athletics. Not athletic director. No. It's too mundane.
Yeah. Right.
This is I think that's one of those deals where because of the stupid rules of the way, I don't know, the corporate mindset functions, you have to give someone an artificially inflated title in order to pay them more. It's why we'll sometimes see in college football, you give a coordinator the entirely fake title of assistant head coach.
Yeah.
To me, it's asinine, right? Like, what does that mean? Nothing. It's like, well,
that's a recent trend, right? That's
yeah. And then the way they justify it is they say, well, now we can pay him more. But who cares? Just pay him more now.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't have to make him a fake title for him. If you think he's worth X amount of money, just pay him. Pay the man. Okay, so Vice President for Intercollegiate Athletics, Sandy Barbour, is out this summer. What do you think?
Well, I mean, she did a good job when she was here. I mean, she had 5 or 6 national titles under her, or 4 of them were wrestling.
Yeah,
I think one was soccer. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she was here when the women's team won the title. Yeah.
I mean, I think she's done well. I mean, she has a nice support staff here. I mean, she has a lot of assistant. She has a lot more assistants than when she got there. That's one thing for sure. But that's another story.
Mike, you are so kind. I do want to give a quick plug that Jim Galante from the Keystone Sports Network and I actually recorded an initial reaction podcast, about 25-minute conversation that I thought was very good. About 10 minutes after the news broke yesterday. You can get that on the obligatory PSU podcast feed, just wherever you get your podcasts. Start typing in oblig, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. But you can find that and check out that conversation. I think, I will probably repeat myself here a little bit with some of my thoughts. But, yeah, to your point, Mike. Go ahead.
It's hard pleasing everybody. I mean, it's hard at that level. You're going to have some people who don't like what you do, people that like what you do, but you just got to live with yourself and make the best decisions. I think she's done most of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as charitable as you have been, but I mean, again, you're Mike the Mailman, so there are no-go zones for sure. Right. I can't wait to hear what Horn thinks about this. It'll be fun to have him in on a conversation at some point.
Right.
I'm probably somewhere in between Sandy's most vocal detractors and Mike the Mailman.
Okay.
I think, in general, my assessment of her tenure is that it was underwhelming, but did not do any significant damage. Mm-hmm. I do think it is very possible that we will look back on her decision to hire Micah Shrewsbury as one of the savvier hires in Penn State history. I mean, again, I am totally Charlie Brown with the football on Penn State men's basketball. Oh, yeah. I've been a season ticket holder for over a decade. I just keep getting suckered in over and over and over again. And so, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So, but you can see some improvement.
Yeah. But my heart is telling me I'm a fool, right?
Yeah.
It's funny where normally it's the other way around, right? Like you want to believe what your heart says.
Yeah, true.
My heart is like, dude, you are a moron if you think that the Penn State basketball is ever going to turn the corner. You're just going to perpetually keep promising people a future that's never going to come. It's like the college sports equivalent of the Heaven's Gate call. Oh, yeah. But my brain, on the other hand, looks at the recruiting class and the performance of the team on the court, despite being very clearly outmanned and outgunned in what you and I think is probably an overrated conference, but still a very competitive conference night out. A lot of talent in the Big Ten.
I mean, I will say this: this team I think showed a lot more heart than any team I've seen in a long time. I mean, they never gave up. I really like this team this year.
They played very hard, and it was great to see them pull a couple of upsets.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know if beating Minnesota in the first round of the Big Ten tournament was an upset, but beating Ohio State certainly was. And they hung right with Purdue, who, Mike, you have going all the way to the championship game in your bracket.
And they also beat Iowa at home. I mean, this is a good team. I mean,
yeah, they had some nice wins, and their record would actually look much better, frankly, if they had a little bit more time to gel and had a full complement of players early on in the season. They got nipped by UMass, which was just like a totally inexplicable loss.
But then they lost 3 games. I mean, they didn't play 3 games because of COVID. And
that was going to be my other point.
They could have. I think they could have won those 3, and they would have been in the NIT. I think that would have.
That's NIT. Probably right, because those were all. You never want to take any win for granted with Penn State basketball, but those were all teams that we were in all likelihood going to beat.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll see. But I think get another decade of basketball, and you'll be happy that you did.
I view it. I've said this many times before, probably on this show too. I view it as 2 things, and this is very healthy for my outlook. I don't consider myself to be a customer of Penn State athletics when it comes to basketball tickets. I view myself as a charitable donor. Kind of like when you donate to PBS, you get the free tote bag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I donate to Penn State athletics and I get free basketball tickets. That's the way I think about it. So nice. I don't feel like I'm ripping myself off. And when I'm at the games, Mike, you're a Catholic. I understand you understand the concept of what do you call it? Confession.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm like a lapsed Protestant. Okay.
Okay.
So for me, sitting through those games is the way I atone for my sins.
Oh,
that's my annual penance.
That would be your penance. Oh, that's good.
Absolutely.
Very good.
I don't do it regularly throughout the year. I build up the bank of sins for which I must atone.
Okay. And
then I attend multiple Penn State home basketball games. And by the time I get to the end of the season, I think karmically everything is balanced.
That's a great way to look at it. Wow. I'm gonna tell all my friends about this. This could be a new concept for a lot of my Protestant friends.
and so the last thing I just want to say on Shrewsbury, because again, that hire is incredibly important.
Oh.
Your head football coach, your head men's basketball coach, those are your revenue sports.
Yep.
That's your bread and butter. So that's an important hire that Sandy made. By far, the most impressive resume of any Penn State men's basketball coach hire at the time it was made that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, there have been some guys like Johnny Bach and Dick Harder who went on to compile really impressive career resumes. Off the top of my head, Lou Prado could probably do this. I can't. Yeah. I can't tell you what their qualifications were when Penn State hired them. Yeah. But I know this guy has been a part of 2 class act top shelf college basketball programs in Butler and Purdue.
Yep.
And he's been part of one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference of the NBA in the Boston Celtics.
Yep.
So in terms of the resume he brought to the table when he got to Happy Valley, you're talking about night and day compared to pretty much anybody I can remember seeing coach the team.
And plus, he does good interviews too. I mean, I think he's a really good guy. He's straightforward. He answers the questions. He's really. I like that part about it too. I'm sure the people who do the interviewing, they must really like it, because I'm sure some coaches are turned off by all this stuff, but he seems to embrace it. So that's good.
Look, if you're going to have success in Happy Valley in men's basketball, you got to be a good salesman.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to be – if you go to a blue blood program, it helps to be a superior salesman. But if you're a great technical coach and, you can inspire your guys to get the most out of their talents, that's all you need. Yep. At Penn State, you've got to be a little bit of a showman, right? Like everybody last year was absolutely crushing Nick Sirianni when the Eagles hired him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was a little awkward in press conferences. And I was like, who cares?
That's right.
Like, these guys are getting paid to be there. That's their job.
Yep.
As long as he can coach, I don't care particularly whether he's super smooth when it comes to answering questions from, the Philly press corps. Yeah. But a little bit different in college. Yeah. So, you're right.
The pros have to go to these conferences. The colleges, they don't have to go to these interviews, right? I think that's how it is.
There are some media obligations in college, not as much in pros.
Yeah, okay.
So some of it is now that you're relationships with your media partners, like Learfield handles all the media for Penn State athletics.
Oh, sure.
Part of the salary gets paid out of those media relationships. So the reason why you see James Franklin during the season, and then Guy Gadowski and Micah Shrewsbury during the winter season doing the weekly shows, that's part of that media rights, media partnership deal that they're required to do because it's paying part of their salary. And the university pays part, Nike pays part, and that's just the way modern coaching salaries get financed.
You pay part with a basketball donation, right? I mean, that's part.
Absolutely, yes. My tiny little contribution is in there. They would. I don't know what they would do without our 3 seats. So, okay. What were we talking about? Sandy Barbour. Yeah. We got off on talking Micah Shrewsbury because I do think ultimately his success or lack thereof will be one of the major defining factors of her legacy at Penn State.
You're right.
And we won't know. We won't be able to make an accurate judgment on that for several years.
Right.
Let's talk about – well, let me backtrack a little bit. Let's first talk about why anybody should give a crap who the athletic director is at Penn State.
Well, you have so many passionate fans that they want Penn State to win it at all costs. So I think even though they're not the athletic director, they really want the athletic director to be their choice. I mean, they want someone who's going to lead Penn State along the way. And as far as who they're going to recruit, that should be an interesting format too.
Well, so let me ask you this, Mike. You've followed the program and been around town for a long time.
Yeah.
You've seen athletic directors come and go, and you spend a lot of time. You're a man of the people. You spend a lot of time among, as you said, very many passionate Penn State fans. I'm interested in your opinion. Do you think the majority of Penn State fans, do you think they even know who Sandy Barbour is?
I do.
Yeah?
I do, yep. And I think I don't do a lot of computer stuff or media stuff, but I got a lot of people yesterday saying, hey, who do you think is going to be the next athletic director? More than I thought I'd get. I mean,
is that right?
Yeah, it traveled around the town a lot into my computer wear, my text phone, whatever. But I was surprised how many people were aware of it. So I think it almost comes to a point where there's so much social media, everyone knows about everything that's going on. So I mean,
that's fair.
So who knows?
And I feel like it's become. I do think among Penn State fans, because my initial instinct is that athletic director is one of those positions that, wonky sports fans like myself who really care about how the sausage is being made, they focus on those types of things. But I feel like the average fan probably just worries more about the football players and the football coach.
Right.
And maybe if you've got a secondary sport like wrestling or hockey or something, about those coaches.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of like the same way that diehard NFL fans care about the GM and everyone else doesn't.
Yeah.
With Penn State fans, I think maybe there was a little bit more attention paid to the AD spot just because of all the controversy around the time of the Sandusky scandal.
Yeah. You're probably right. Yep.
So maybe people are more tuned in because of that.
I do have a question about
go ahead.
About hires. Now, Coach Russ Rose, the best of the best, he retired. Now, does he get to pick his successor, or does AD do that? I'm always curious.
He does not get to. I mean, there's nothing that says he gets to pick his successor. He very well may have made a recommendation.
That's what. So he makes a recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe, but that's a big part of what you hire your athletic director to do.
Yeah.
To make the final recommendation to the president and to the board of trustees on who the university should hire.
Okay. I'm wondering what kind of an input a coach has on that.
I think a lot of that depends on what kind of an athletic director you have.
Okay.
Is it somebody who is a lone wolf, or is it somebody who takes a more collaborative approach to the job? Again, I think that's going to be an important factor to discuss. But we'll do that on the other side of the break. We're going to hop out of here for just a couple of minutes to pay some bills. We'll be back here on the Line Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show.
Best 2 out of 3?
It's one fantastic ride. The turbocharged, tech-inspired new Kia Forte.
There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube. From live music to exciting new flavors, meet your friends and refuel at your local Quaker Steak and Lube today. Can't slow down? Then order online. Pick up and get back on the road. Find us at thelube.com.
Still can't believe we designed and built a boat.
Well, actually, this kayak was designed centuries ago by people who knew a lot about water. Though, cedar was my idea. But I guess we did it together.
I hope the thing floats.
Those builders didn't talk about floating, Dad. They said the person is the boat, and the boat is the water.
Exactly.
Born of a reverence for nature. The first ever Mazda CX-50.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Sans Goon and Ironhead, Chris Bucanani, Mike the Mailman, filling in for our intrepid hosts who are both in Detroit for the NCAA Wrestling Nationals. Ironhead calling the action, Goon enjoying it from a suite, probably about, at least 2.5 sheets to the wind, if not the full 3.
Probably, that's right. They drove there yesterday, right?
They did.
Yep.
They did. Yeah. They took a whole crew out there to go cheer on the Nittany Lions. That's and great. Probably having a little angst at the moment after some early round disappointments.
And wrestling crowds are so different than basketball crowds.
Big time. They are a unique breed for sure. So we are here at State College's Quaker Steak and Lube, a great place to come out all weekend long to enjoy the sports actions on their many television sets all throughout the restaurant. You can enjoy at the same time some delicious beers, some incredible wings, a really cool place to hang out. We love to be here. We'd love for you to come out and hang out with us every Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. And Mike, before we left the break, we were talking about Penn State moving on from Athletic Director Sandy Barbour announcing yesterday that she'll be retiring this summer. And I was talking about why is it important that fans care who the athletic director is. Well, in addition to making hires, coaching hires, which is big, and then once you bring the coaches in, determining how you measure success or failure, there are a lot of other factors to consider with the athletic director, especially right now. I think a key point to understand is that college football drives college sports. And college sports has never been more fluid in its modern era than it is right now. And so in order to figure out how can Penn State uniquely navigate these incredibly choppy waters, you want to have really strong, smart, capable, dynamic leadership. And one of my concerns with all these changes going on the college sports front is that Penn State is going through a wholesale leadership transition. Eric Barron's retiring, and we're bringing in a new president. Now Sandy Barbour retiring, bringing in an AD. It could be really boom bust for us because your leadership matters a whole hell of a lot. In any organization, right? And so if you care about success on the field or off of it, which I think is important to a lot of Penn State fans, myself included, the tone is set from the top. Or as an old friend and mentor of mine, the late, great Bob Zimmerman used to say, shit runs downhill.
That's right.
So if you mess your higher up, it can do an incredible amount of damage in a short amount of time.
Well, one thing I've heard about the new Penn State president, she is a avid sports person, and she had some trouble to look into at Louisville when she was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are some people who came away with the impression that she is not pro-college athletics because she basically told Louisville's AD that she was not going to allow him to borrow $50 million to fire one head coach and buy out another. Like, again, as somebody who believes, like, you need money to succeed in college sports, but you can't treat the solution, the best and only solution to every problem is throw more money at it. Like, I think that's great.
I do too.
And she is not hostile to college athletics at all. In fact, I am incredibly, as a Penn Stater and as a Penn State sports fan, I'm incredibly optimistic about everything I've heard about Neely Bendapudi. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it is too.
And if you can nail even 50% of that equation, let alone both spots, you're in you're in really good stead. So I think, to me, what I really want to see out of the job search for athletic director here, more than anything, because it's a really important job. You're talking about being in on the Big Ten's scheduling decisions, whether or not we stick with divisions or change up that format, media rights conversations, to say nothing of all the things internal to the university. There's a lot of things that if you are the athletic director of Penn State, you've got your hands on.
And never a Friday night football, home football game. Never.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so that's clear.
Yeah. I really would like to see Penn State be willing to go outside the normal career path for someone to become an athletic director. Like Sandy Barbour followed about as rote a progression up the career ladder of intercollegiate athletics as you could get to become the AD at first Cal and then Penn State. And that's, maybe you start as a player or as an assistant coach or whatever, and you get a graduate degree in sports administration, and then you work your way up from one job to the next to the next. My problem with that is that, number one, I think it artificially limits your search.
You're in that box. Yep.
Number two, that is an echo chamber of a dying, if not dead, industry. College sports as we knew it, because again, remember, it's driven almost entirely by college football. Its expiration date was December 31st, 2019, or whenever they played the national championship for that season. That was it. Like, it's gone and it ain't coming back. And my concern is that if Penn State just says, like, okay, we got to go out and find the next, like, a mid-major athletic director or Power 5 assistant athletic director who's ready to take the next step up the ladder, you're finding somebody who has spent their entire professional career confined to this world whose rules no longer apply.
Yep, you're right. So who will be on the search committee? Have they announced that yet or not?
If they have, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I would expect.
Will the new president be on there?
Yes, the president will be part of that conversation. There will probably be a representative of the faculty senate.
Okay.
Maybe, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Russ Rose is on it, but a retired coach somebody retired from a prestige position in athletics. And then, we have trustee, perhaps, maybe a current coach, one of the varsity coaches, not James Franklin for sure.
Right.
But I would really like to see at least a willingness. I'm saying don't rule anyone out.
Yeah.
If you think you've got a really good candidate who comes from within the confines of the traditional career path, that's fine.
But you're right. You're looking for the best candidate, the best overall. Whether they're former athletic director or not. That's a very good point. I think you're right, because you're right. Everything has changed over the last several years. I mean,
maybe I'm off.
No, I think you're right on.
I think a lot of the unique aspects of athletics administration, a capable person who has a track record of running large organizations and having success within the confines of whatever, business, nonprofit world, government, you name it, could come in and in a relatively short amount of time figure out what you need to know to translate those skills to college sports. Yeah. What I think Penn State needs to do with its next athletic director is prioritize, people skills, strong leadership, and visionary thinking. You got to be imaginative. You've got to be able to think a few steps ahead, because I can't reiterate this point enough. The landscape is so fluid that if you can't think ahead and figure out, okay, what is the next step going to be? What's the next domino to fall based on whatever just happened with NIL rights or with media rights? What the next step that the SEC makes, the next step that the Big Ten makes. If you can't anticipate, that's going to put us at a disadvantage. And the other thing I really want to emphasize is that college sports is so incredibly brand and culture dependent. Every major Power 5 program with a legitimate chance to build a national title contender, and there might not be 20 of them nationwide, and we are blessed to be among that group.
Yeah,
we might be closer to the bottom fifth, we might be closer to 15 than one, but I still like those odds. They all have a path to success that runs through the culture of their program, their boosters, their fan and alumni base, and within the confines of their brand as it has been defined. Think about every major college football program you know of, Mike.
Yeah, you're right.
You instantly can describe the character of that program to me. And I'll give you a couple of examples, like Michigan, when they hired Rich Rodriguez and tried to totally rewrite their playbook. Or Nebraska, when they brought in Bill Callahan and tried to do the same. Catastrophic.
Terrible.
Nebraska has never recovered from that.
Right.
And it's taken Michigan this long to get back up on their feet. And both of them ultimately ended up solving the problem they created for themselves by going out and finding an alum to come back who understood the community, the culture, the university, the program, the brand. And you had to bring a Jim Harbaugh or a Scott Frost in just to do triage. Right? So the next athletic director of Penn State needs to come in here and embrace what is unique about Happy Valley, about Penn State, Nittany Nation, and what it means to be a Nittany Lion. I talked about the podcast I did with Jim from Keystone Sports Network. He told a story that he was at a private kind of fundraising donor event with Sandy early on in her career at Penn State. And she made a comment. Again, this is to a crowd full of like high roller Penn State alumni. Okay. She gets up and, just sort of like in total blissful ignorance, talking about how, under her leadership, they were going to fix the culture at Penn State. I mean, to me, that's like, you get up in front of a room full of people and be like, everybody, I've got great news. I am here to teach you all how to stop being assholes. If you're going to be in a position to be asking people to give of themselves in the name of your success, which an athletic director absolutely does. You've got to ask people to give their time, their money, to commit to a vision you are selling. You need to understand those people and not fundamentally insult them right out of the gate. And I just think that tone deafness, that unwillingness to lean into the many good things that are already here versus the pompous arrogance of thinking you're going to come in and just through your own force of will, bring the mountain to you. I think that sowed the seeds of, whatever shortcomings Sandy had. And if I combine that with what I've seen from her and James, which is this, from my perception, a problem with an inability to pump themselves up and tout their own, in many cases, laudable accomplishments by way of diminishing what someone else did. Right? Like another thing that Sandy said that really it chaps my ass, Mike. and she said this year to Penn State fans on a road trip. Kevin was there and told me about it, and other people have independently verified. She basically said that 2016 to 2019, which included 3 11-win seasons. Now, of course, when they quote you those stats, they never mention that, back in the day, they played 10 or 11 games instead of 12 like we do now. So, if you could have played Akron one more time back in the mid-'90s, we would have had a few more 11-win seasons than we did. She said that was the most successful stretch in Penn State football history.
Yeah, wow.
Well, when you start counting history at 2014, I guess that's true. I mean, those remarks to me are indicative of somebody who was just never going to squeeze millions of dollars out of the Penn State donor base.
Right.
You got to love your customers, man. And if you don't love these customers, you don't love our unique customer base, go take a different job. There's plenty of other athletic director jobs, plenty of other places for you to ply your trade and make a lot of money. If Penn State is going to make a hire, they've got to be reasonably sure they are bringing in somebody who has the potential to fall in love with Penn State University and with the Nittany Valley. That's my opinion.
And I hope all the people who are going to interview, I hope they do learn a lot about the culture, the history, and just the regular people in this town alone. I mean, there's a lot of supporters. They got to know that. They have to know, and they got to fall in love right away. I mean, they got to embrace what they have here and go from there. I think it would be better off for them and for the university.
The example I gave was if you got hired to be president of operations for the Philadelphia 76ers, and the first thing you did was gather together all the season ticket holders and say, like, okay, everybody, now that I'm here, there's going to be no more throwing batteries at opposing players. We're not going to hurl snowballs at Santa Claus. No more drunken fistfights in 700 level, everybody. Like, you just pull the worst stereotypes that you heard about on ESPN and immediately insult your audience, right? Yep. Like, you've got to understand that, number one, those things aren't true. And number two, and you know this, Mike, like you're buddies with Jason Kelsey's dad, right? Like, you want to talk about a guy who has totally bought into the spirit of the city and its fans.
Oh, yeah.
Philly fans, I mean, look, every NFL fan base has some, dumbasses in it, okay? Yep. But in general, en masse, Philly fans will reward you for working hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's really all they want. They want maximum effort out of their players. And if you give max effort, they will give back max love. Yep. And so somebody who comes in and takes a general manager job, a team president job in Philadelphia, not only do they have to understand it, they have to believe that. And they have to love it. Yep. And they just need to, or you're not going to be successful there. Yep. And Penn State's got a certain set of values. It's got a certain way of doing things. And as somebody who comes into a leadership position here at the university, you've got to understand that. And if there are things you want to change, because I'm not opposed to testing the boundaries and trying to expand the scope of things, you've got to do it within the framework of what's here already.
Right.
I'll give you a good example of that. This may be news to some folks who watch us on TV or are watching us now, but you're a skosh older than I am, Mike.
Right.
Just a handful of years.
Yeah.
But I am by far, like decades plus more curmudgeonly than you are. Yeah. We can agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So back in the early to mid 2000s, when they started adding all the bells and whistles to Beaver Stadium, so the music and the video boards and the pregame video and everything, I hated that shit, like big time. To the point where I almost called up a friend of mine who was, relatively high up in the athletic department just to give him hell about it. And then I decided not to, and I'm glad I didn't. Because you know what? When the 2005 season came around, the incredible bounce-back Big Ten title season, and we had the great upset win at home over Ohio State.
Yep.
College game days in town, just amazing. Amazing week leading up to that game, and then we get the W. When Calvin Lowry intercepted that ball and ran it back to the 2-yard line to set up Penn State's second go-ahead touchdown, the eruption of the crowd all ages, all demographics, students, alumni, senior citizens, kids, you name it, when Zombie Nation came on. And the way the crowd like blew up in excitement the rest of the season when that pregame video would come on.
Oh, yeah.
It totally turned me around because I realized I was just stuck in my ways and being too much of a stick in the mud, and that those things represented the contribution of the new generation of Penn State students to the character of Penn State football.
You're right.
But I tell that story to make the point that the brains behind all of that was a guy named Guido D'Elia, who's a Penn State grad, a Paterno loyalist. Like, this guy, bleeds blue and white.
Yep.
And every step of the way, as Guido, strategically pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable, knowing full well that people who were like me, whether, in actual age or in mental state, were going to be pissed about it initially. Yep. He did it so carefully and so tactily, tactically, that he won us over. And I do think that respect and tolerance for what I'm sure like some really, really irritating qualities in our fan base for people who are trying to do new things, I think that was essential to his success. So that's my parable to whoever Penn State's next athletic director is. If you can't embrace the spirit of how Guido got us to all love a stupid like German techno song, you're going to fail. But if you get what I'm saying, if you get the point of the story I'm telling you, this is one of the absolute greatest places to be and one of the best spots to win at in all of sports and anywhere on the planet.
I agree. That's why it's Happy Valley. I mean, it's a great place. Happy Valley is a happy valley because that's who we are.
Amen, brother. So I'm going to wrap up with one last thing who I would like to see, at least in the conversation for athletic director. An interesting name. Not saying this person's going to get considered, not saying they would consider it. Remember Calvin Booth? We're talking college basketball time.
Oh, yeah.
Center, all-time leader in blocks.
Wasn't he the owner of an NBA team?
So he was the general manager of the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, okay.
So Calvin Booth, for anyone who doesn't know, is like, I think he's about 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
Real big, long, lanky guy, like incredible shot blocker, like Penn State's all-time program leader in that category.
That's a good choice.
And went on and had like a relatively lengthy, but like also relatively unremarkable NBA career.
Right.
Like a bench guy who would do spot starts, but made a lot of money over the course of his career. So, I mean, good for him, right? Yeah. Like I always say, you've got to be among the best athletes alive to be bad in a pro sport.
Yep.
And he wasn't bad. He was just okay.
Yeah.
So Calvin Booth hung around the NBA for a while. And then when his playing career was over, he kind of quickly transitioned into front office work. Mm-hmm. And he just rose like a rocket ship.
He did. You're right.
Through the ranks to where he is now GM of the Nuggets. And I think there's a lot to there's a lot to argue for at least reaching out to him and see if he's interested. So he's a Penn State guy. Yep. So he does have that understanding that we talked about. Yep. Maybe could be tempted with the possibility to come home. Although, I mean, again, if I'm living in Denver, I don't know. I love Happy Valley. Yep. And I would not trade where I live for anywhere else. Nope. If I was the general manager of an NBA team and I was living in a really cool city, like, I don't know, you would really have to, you'd have to push the right buttons to get me to come back. But why not inquire a guy who has shown an uber high degree of competency to rise as quickly as he has. And I know he is very well thought of, who understands a lot of the complex business side issues that I think are going to be essential to a college athletic director and the way college football is changing. And has been in a position where, kind of like Penn State, we talked about them maybe being closer to 15 than 1 on the list of programs that can contend for a national title. The Nuggets do not have a whole lot going for them in terms of the NBA, right? They're not in a sexy market.
No.
They don't
That's
have a lot of history.
Right.
They don't have the most resources, and they have done very, very well doing more with less. There, they've made really savvy personnel moves, really good business decisions. So that's my guy, Calvin Booth. I'd say at least give him a look.
I'm right with you. I like that. That's a good choice. Good job.
Okay, I probably jinxed him and cursed him. First of all, I probably totally torpedoed the guy's chance, because if it ever gets out that Penn State would hire the guy Buchanani mentioned in the first 24 hours after Barbour announced his retirement, forget about it. So sorry, Calvin Booth, if you wanted to be our athletic director, I just screwed your chances. Sorry, buddy.
We love you anyway, Calvin.
Yeah. Well, very good, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Again, we're at State College's Quaker Steak and Lube every Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. Next week, the Goon will be back, and so will Ironhead to break down whatever the result of this wrestling tournament ends up being. Mike, let's hope things start moving in a more positive direction for the Nittany Lions. We've had rough first days before. This is fine. It's fine. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other. We are.
Best 2 out of 3?
It's one fantastic ride. The turbocharged, tech-inspired new Kia Forte.
There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube. From live music to exciting new flavors, meet your friends and refuel at your local Quaker Steak and Lube today. Can't slow down? Then order online. Pick up and get back on the road. Find us at thelube.com.
You know, we humans have come a long way on our journey. Our first language wasn't exactly, a language. Medium well, thank you. Our first vehicles weren't the fastest.
Can you,
Faster. Hey, boys, punch it! Our first maps weren't that accurate. And you know, fellas, the world is actually, give a ball. Our first phones weren't smart. Text mom winky face emoji. Our first screens, you couldn't touch.
Mom, Dad's feeling the TV.
No one likes a snitch, son.
And the first electric vehicles weren't, let's just say, they look nothing like the first ever Ioniq 5. I mean, two-way charging, AR heads-up display, 300-mile range. What can't this thing do? Look, the point is, it's been a long,
yeah, good point. Really long journey.
but worth it. Your journey at its most evolved, the fully electric